The hall was a cathedral of metal and light. Hundreds of alien cadets stood in perfect rows, their armor polished to mirror sheen, their eyes forward. The air shimmered faintly with sterilization mist. Every step echoed as if the Academy itself demanded silence. Above them, banners of dozens of species floated like captured stars. None bore the blue and white of Earth. Evelyn Drake stood alone near the back, her uniform black against the silver floor. She looked smaller than the others, bare arms, dark hair tied tight, no insignia yet on her shoulder. Her pulse stayed steady as she watched the towering forms of her classmates. Some had skin like glass, others breathing masks, a few eye stalks that twitched in unison. All were children of worlds where life had learned to be soft. From the far end, heavy footsteps approached. The sound didn't echo, it commanded. General Vark Talroon emerged from the haze, his scales shifting from bronze to green as his mood darkened. A veteran of 5 wars, his name was spoken with reverence and fear. His eyes, 2 narrow slits of gold, swept the crowd and locked on the single human standing straight among the kneeling species. "Cadets!" Vark thundered, his voice amplified through the hall's speakers. "Today you demonstrate humility before order. You kneel to the Concord, not as servants, but as equals recognizing the chain of command that binds civilization together." A synchronized movement followed. Every alien bent their knees, or whatever limbs they used, in unison. A ripple of obedience spread through the ranks. All but one. Evelyn stayed upright. Whispers flared immediately. A few gasps. One nervous laugh cut short when Vark's gaze snapped toward it. "Cadet Drake," he said, his tone heavy with disdain. "Perhaps your translator malfunctioned." "It's functioning, sir," she replied evenly. "Then you deliberately refused to kneel?" Her eyes stayed fixed on the far wall, calm as glass. "Where I come from, sir, kneeling means surrender." "You said this was about respect." A low rumble rose among the spectators. Vark's scales brightened in anger. "Respect is submission to the greater order. You stand defiant in front of the Empire itself." "Defiance would be moving when you tell me to kneel," she said softly. That quiet sentence carried further than a shout. It cut through the mechanical air, through the echoing hall, until it landed squarely in the mind of every cadet present. Vark walked closer, his boots clicking with measured precision. The floor lights reflected off his armor as if trying to flee his presence. He circled her once, studying the stillness of her stance. "I've seen humans," he said, voice lower now. "Primitive brutes who mistake stubbornness for strength. Your species joined the Concord under charity, not merit. You are here to learn how to behave." Evelyn's jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. "I'm here to learn how to serve alongside others. That doesn't begin with humiliation." The general's laughter was dry and cold. "You believe pride has a place among soldiers?" "I believe dignity does." Vark turned sharply toward the watching cadets. "You hear this? The Deathworlder thinks she knows discipline better than her betters. Let her demonstrate her dignity before all." He extended a clawed hand toward her. "Kneel!" The word cracked like a whip. Evelyn didn't move. She inhaled slowly through her nose, exhaled through her mouth. Her heart rate didn't change. "Last warning," Vark said, stepping closer. The sound of his armor joints grinding filled the silence. "You will obey, or you will crawl out of this hall stripped of your uniform and your species' pride." Something flickered in her eyes, not fear, not rebellion, but a glint of memory. She remembered her father's words when he'd watched the first alien ship land on Earth. "They'll test your spine before they trust your mind." She straightened slightly, voice calm. "With respect, General, my spine's fine." The hall's breath held still, the alien beside her, a 4-eyed cadet from the oral species, whispered, "She's insane." Another muttered, "She'll be dead before morning." Vark leaned closer, his breath metallic. "I could have you expelled for insubordination." "You could," she agreed. "But then you'd prove your order fears what it cannot control." That struck deep. Vark's tail twitched once, a reflex of fury. "You will learn your place, human. Here, respect is demanded, not earned." Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. "On Earth, General, respect that's demanded is never worth having." For a moment, no one moved. The hum of the life support systems became thunder in the quiet. Then Vark smiled. It wasn't pleasant. We'll see how long your Deathworld pride lasts when you face a true test. He raised his arm, signaling the hall's automated systems. Lights dimmed. A circular platform rose from the floor at the center. Combat evaluation. You wish equality? You'll earn it the way your kind understands, through survival. Murmurs turned to excited chatter. Cadets shifted, recording devices ready. Evelyn's face remained expressionless. With who? Vark pointed toward the far door. It opened, revealing a mechanical drone used for close-quarters training, a towering frame of alloy muscle and plasma shielding. Its optics glowed red. Standard reflex drill, Vark said. Deactivate it or it will disable you. No fatal rounds. Unless it malfunctions. The smirk on his face said he hoped it would. Evelyn stepped onto the platform, boots echoing softly. The floor sealed behind her with a hiss. The air grew colder, the drone activated with a shriek of metal. It lunged. Her body reacted before thought. She pivoted, letting momentum carry the strike past her shoulder. The mechanical arm hit the wall, sparks scattering. She moved under its guard, 2 fingers finding the control joint in its elbow. A twist. The arm went limp. The cadets gasped. Vark's eyes narrowed. Lucky move. The drone recovered faster now. It swept low, trying to knock her down. She jumped, spun midair, and landed behind it. A pulse from her training implant synced to her heartbeat. She whispered, "End simulation." The drone froze instantly, red optics flickering to blue. System override complete 10 seconds. That's all it had taken. Vark's jaw clenched. How did you... Protocol 42C, she said calmly. Emergency override. Every unit linked to the Academy mainframe has it. You designed it, didn't you? A ripple of shocked laughter spread through the ranks. Evelyn turned toward him, meeting his glare. You told me to show respect for order. I just showed I understand yours better than you do. He didn't speak. His scaled hand tightened into a fist. She walked off the platform, each step measured, deliberate. As she passed the first row of cadets, she said quietly enough for only them to hear, "Where I come from, obedience is earned through trust, not fear." The hall remained silent as she left. Even the banners seemed to hang differently, their shadows stretched and uncertain. General Vark stood motionless in the center, breathing slowly, scales dimming to a dull bronze. For the first time in his career, he had no command to give. Outside, through the Academy's glass corridors, Evelyn walked toward her dormitory. The stars beyond Velis Prime shimmered in cold perfection. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She only whispered to herself, that was the easy part. The next test, she knew, wouldn't be about obedience. It would be about control, and she was very, very good at control. The next morning dawned beneath a violet sky. Velis Prime's twin suns cast long shadows through the Academy's glass corridors, slicing the halls into cold light and silence. The atmosphere was heavier than usual. Word of the human cadets' defiance had already spread. Evelyn felt the weight of every stare as she walked toward the grand hall. Conversations paused when she passed. No one dared speak openly, but their eyes said enough: curiosity, resentment, and the faint shimmer of fear. Inside, General Vark waited at the center of the hall, his posture carved from fury, restrained only by discipline. Behind him stood 2 officers and a council recorder drone, its lens fixed on her. "Cadet Drake," he said, his voice echoing off the steel walls. "You seem fond of spectacle. Let's give you another." Evelyn stopped a few paces away. "Was yesterday's demonstration insufficient, sir?" It was insubordination disguised as wit. He took 1 step forward. "I let you walk out because I believed humiliation would teach you humility. I was wrong." She met his gaze calmly. "Maybe you mistook silence for fear." Murmurs rippled across the ranks of assembled cadets. Vark raised a clawed hand, and the sound died instantly. "Today, you will learn what it means to stand before authority. The Academy cannot afford arrogance, not from a species that barely learned to cross its own orbit. I'll keep that in mind, she said, tone level. He circled her slowly, every step deliberate. The Empire shows mercy, even to savages. We extended you the honor of this academy. You repay it with defiance. Respect isn't defiance, Evelyn said. It's mutual. Vark's jaw muscles tightened. Then let's test your definition. He gestured to the floor. The light shifted. A holographic crest of the Concord appeared, glowing blue. Kneel, Cadet Drake. Acknowledge your place among your betters. A simple act. Nothing more than courtesy. Every eye fixed on her. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Evelyn didn't move. Her arms hung loosely at her sides, her expression unreadable. I already did that when I joined. Papers, oath, blood test. Remember? On your knees, human! His voice thundered through the amplifiers, shaking dust from the vents. Her pulse stayed steady. No! The silence afterward was unbearable. A dozen alien cadets exchanged shocked glances. One of the officers took a half-step forward, uncertain if he should intervene. Vark's tail lashed once, a metallic scrape on the floor. He smiled without warmth. You think this is courage? It's ignorance. He moved faster than expected. One clawed hand gripped her shoulder, pushing down hard. Do you know what happens to insolent recruits in my academy? Her voice stayed calm. They learn faster than expected. He shoved harder. Beg! Evelyn looked up at him, slow, unflinching. Her eyes were a deep, steady gray. You first. The words hit harder than a strike. For a second, no one believed they'd heard right. Vark's body tensed. His other hand went for her neck, but he never reached it. A flash of motion blurred the space between them. The air snapped with a sharp crack, not sound, but pressure. The gravity field in a 3-meter radius inverted for half a heartbeat. Vark stumbled forward, knees slamming into the deck. His chest hit the Concord crest he'd demanded she kneel upon. The hall gasped. Evelyn hadn't moved an inch. Her right wrist glowed faintly, a neural implant interface, faint blue veins of energy pulsing across her skin. Vark tried to rise, but the field pressed down harder, calibrated with surgical precision. It wasn't enough to crush, only enough to force him still. What did you do? He rasped. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. You initiated physical aggression during a cadet evaluation. My implant registered a threat and triggered defensive override. You taught this system yourself, didn't you? The officers hesitated. The recorder drone whirred, still capturing. You dare use Academy systems against a superior? Vark growled. I didn't, she said. It used itself. I just let it finish. He struggled again, rage twisting his features. The floor vibrated faintly with the effort. She adjusted her stance, tone cool. 10 seconds, she said. That's how long a predator lasts on my world if it overextends. Gravity doesn't forgive arrogance either. He froze, realizing she was timing him. His breathing turned ragged. 6, she murmured. 7. Deactivate it, he shouted to his aides. No external control, one officer stammered. Her implant's protocol overrides local authority for emergency countermeasures. It's standard for Deathworlder recruits. Vark's eyes widened in disbelief. The same bureaucracy he trusted had betrayed him. 9, she whispered. 10. The pressure vanished. He collapsed fully, gasping. The hall stayed utterly silent. Even the ever-present hum of the air system felt distant. Evelyn waited a moment, then stepped back, her movements smooth, disciplined, unprovocative. Vark pushed himself upright, face flushed dark green. You humiliated me. No, sir, she said, standing straight. You did that yourself. His hand trembled as he pointed at her. You think this proves your strength? No, she said. It proves your weakness. Every cadet heard it. The words cut through the hall like a verdict. The general's pride cracked visibly, the authority in his posture bleeding away with every shallow breath. He looked around, seeking affirmation from his officers, but they stood rigid, unwilling to meet his eyes. Evelyn turned to the gathered cadets. You joined this academy to defend peace, not to kneel before it. If your leaders mistake respect for obedience, they'll lead you into extinction. No one responded, but several heads turned slightly toward her, not in rebellion, but in thought. Vark's voice came, hoarse, broken. You will face tribunal for this. She nodded once. Then I'll speak truth under record. He rose shakily, leaning on the nearest officer. His pride wouldn't let him stay down, but his silence did the work for her. Evelyn looked at the crest beneath his knees, now smeared by his fall. She met his eyes one last time. You asked for submission, she said quietly. Now you know how it feels. Then she turned and walked out. No one dared stop her. Behind her, the hall stayed frozen. Cadets still processing what they'd seen, officers unsure if they'd just witnessed a disciplinary disaster or a historical shift. Outside, the corridor's glass panels framed the world below. Velis Prime's oceans glowed faintly blue under its twin suns. Her reflection stared back at her, pale skin, unreadable eyes, a faint pulse still flickering along her wrist from the implant. She exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled once, then steadied. For all her control, she felt the weight of what she'd done. She hadn't just defied a superior officer. She'd broken the unspoken barrier that kept humanity on its knees in this galaxy. Her comm implant chimed, a soft voice, automated, polite. Cadet Drake, report to Tribunal Chamber 4 at Aero 900 for disciplinary review. She nodded to no one. Right on schedule. As she walked away, a faint murmur began behind her, cadets whispering a word that would echo long after this day. Deathworlder, not insult anymore. A warning. The same empire that once looked down on humanity had just seen what 10 seconds of control could do, and somewhere deep inside, Evelyn knew this wasn't over. It had only just begun. The tribunal chamber was nothing like the grand hall. No banners, no mirrors, no crowd. Just white light and silence so sharp it hummed in the bones. Evelyn Drake stood in the center ring, surrounded by transparent barriers that shimmered faintly with containment fields. Her reflection stared back at her from every surface, calm, unreadable, human. Across from her, 3 counselors presided behind a suspended dais. They represented 3 species, each chosen for impartiality, though their expressions betrayed discomfort. At the center sat Counselor Ress, a tall, translucent being whose eyes shifted colors when emotional frequencies spiked. At the far side stood General Vark Talrun. His scales were dull bronze now, the vibrant gleam of authority replaced by bruised dignity. His posture remained rigid, but his voice lacked the arrogance that once filled the academy. Cadet Evelyn Drake, Ress began, voice like glass breaking underwater. You stand accused of assaulting a superior officer, disrupting military discipline, and using restricted neural technology without authorization. Do you understand the charges? Yes, Evelyn said, steady. And I understand what caused them. Murmurs flickered among the minor officials recording the hearing. Ress raised a hand, silencing them. We have reviewed preliminary reports. Your implant registered a defensive reflex, but its force exceeded training parameters. You disabled General Vark for approximately 10 seconds. Was that intentional? No, she said. It was calibrated for non-lethal containment. 10 seconds is automatic, enough to neutralize a threat, not harm it. Ress tilted their head. Yet your restraint humiliated a decorated officer. Was that your goal? Evelyn met their transparent gaze. My goal was survival. He ordered me to beg. The words hung in the air, too human and too raw for translation. The translator drone stuttered for a fraction before finding an equivalent phrase. Submission under duress. Counselor Ress shifted color faintly blue. embarrassment. "General Vark, do you confirm?" He hesitated. The command was traditional, a symbolic act to test discipline. The human misinterpreted it. Evelyn's voice cut clean through. "You meant to break me publicly. That isn't tradition, it's domination." One of the other counselors, a feathered Yaren, clicked their beak softly. "You could have complied and filed a protest afterward." "On Earth," she said. "If someone demands you kneel to prove respect, you're already too late to stand up." A murmur ran through the attendants again, but this time it wasn't disdain. It was uneasy recognition. Rest leaned forward. "Your implant's action endangered a superior. Do you understand the potential consequences?" "Yes," Evelyn said quietly. So did he. Vark's jaw tightened. "You presume equality, human. You forget where you stand." "No, General," she replied, eyes steady. "I remember exactly where I stood, upright." Even Rest didn't hide the flicker of surprise. The council's composure cracked for a heartbeat. A hollow screen activated beside the dais. Footage from the Grand Hall played. The confrontation, his hand on her shoulder, the gravity pulse, his body collapsing. The silence that followed was total. Rest watched carefully. "We see no act of aggression from the cadet until the moment of contact. The system registered a physical threat before auto-defense engaged." "General, do you contest this data?" Vark's voice dropped low. "The data lacks context. She provoked me deliberately." Evelyn didn't flinch. "If calm speech provokes violence, that's not on the speaker." The counselor on the right, a reptilian scholar named Carr, spoke for the first time. "This event has reached the Concord channels. Public reaction varies. Some demand your expulsion. Others call you an example of human discipline under duress. How do you respond?" She thought for a moment. "I didn't plan to represent humanity. I only refuse to dishonor it." Carr nodded slightly, an acknowledgement disguised as neutrality. Rest looked between them. "The Council's concern extends beyond the incident. The Concord accepted humanity recently. You are its first cadet in a mixed academy. This moment will define perception for decades. Do you regret your actions?" Evelyn's answer came without hesitation. "No." Vark's scales flared in anger. "Arrogant creature." Rest raised a hand sharply. "Enough, General." For the first time, Vark stopped mid-sentence. Evelyn's voice softened. "Respect isn't learned through fear. I know what fear feels like. It makes you small, quiet, obedient. But respect, that's built when you realize the person beside you won't bow even when it's safer to." Rest sat back, color neutral again. "Your words are persuasive. Dangerous, perhaps, but persuasive." The chamber went silent again, while the council conferred privately through neural link. Only the faint hum of the containment field filled the air. Evelyn stood still, breathing slow, neither defensive nor proud. Minutes passed. Finally, Rest spoke. "The council has reached a decision. The evidence confirms that your neural implant acted within authorized parameters. The aggression originated from your superior. Therefore, you are cleared of all charges." Gasps rippled across the chamber. Vark's claws scraped the floor. "You can't—" Rest turned their gaze on him. "You endangered a cadet under Concord protection. Effective immediately, you are relieved of instructional command pending review." The silence that followed was heavier than judgment. Vark's breath rasped through clenched teeth, but he said nothing. He bowed stiffly to the council and walked out without looking at her. When the doors closed, the tension broke like glass under pressure. Rest addressed her again. "Cadet Drake, humanity's reputation will rise or fall with how you handle the aftermath. You have gained attention and fear. Use both wisely." Evelyn nodded once. "Fear fades. Respect endures." They regarded her a moment longer, then deactivated the containment field. "Dismissed." She turned and walked out. Outside the tribunal, sunlight from Velis Prime's twin stars filtered through the dome, scattering over the marble floor. The hallways, once hostile, now parted quietly as cadets stepped aside. No one spoke to her, but none dared meet her eyes either. That was respect enough for now. At the far end of the hall, she stopped before a window overlooking the training fields. The students below moved in ordered drills. For the first time, some of them carried small earth insignias on their uniforms, a gesture she hadn't expected. Footsteps approached from behind. she turned. It was the Yaren counselor Carr, their plumage faintly gold. "You know," they said, voice softer now, "I once believed humans were dangerous because of violence. I was wrong. You're dangerous because you refuse to forget who you are." Evelyn smiled faintly. "That's what kept us alive." "Then keep it that way," Carr said, before leaving. She watched him go, then looked back out the window. The training fields shimmered under the morning light. She could almost hear her father's voice again. "They'll test your spine before they trust your mind," she whispered. "Guess we passed the first test." Down below, a new group of recruits entered formation, a few humans among them. The academy had opened its gates wider overnight. Later that evening, she walked along the observation deck. The stars hung like frost above the horizon, endless and indifferent. Somewhere beyond those points of light was Earth, small, fierce, and patient. A shadow moved beside her reflection in the glass. General Vark, out of uniform now, posture heavy, voice stripped of thunder. "I should hate you," he said quietly. "You probably do," she replied. "I thought strength meant control," he said, "but I saw it in your stillness. Strength that doesn't need to prove itself." She studied him for a long second. "You asked me to beg. Now you're asking to understand. That's progress," he almost smiled. "Perhaps the Empire has something to learn from Deathworlders after all." She nodded once. "Respect starts there." He saluted her, formal and slow, then left without another word. When he was gone, Evelyn turned back toward the stars. For the first time since arriving, she allowed herself a deep breath that didn't feel defensive. The galaxy had seen a human kneel no one, and watched an empire bend instead. She whispered into the quiet, "Respect isn't given. It's remembered." Outside, Velis Prime's orbit spun on, carrying her name through the Academy corridors like an echo that wouldn't fade, and somewhere, deep within the network archives, the footage of that 10-second Defiance spread beyond the Academy, becoming legend. The Deathworld Girl had changed everything. The Academy changed overnight. The air carried new tension, sharper, quieter, more cautious. Cadets who once mocked Evelyn now watched her with a mixture of fear and fascination. Her name was whispered in corridors like a rumor that refused to die. The Deathworlder. The girl who made the general kneel. Yet Evelyn felt no triumph. She knew what came after fame in military institutions, observation, then retaliation. Power never yielded without trying to reclaim its throne. She walked through the East Training Yard at dawn, where the red light of Velis Prime's twin suns washed the metallic floor with color, like blood over steel. The hum of drones filled the air as new recruits sparred. When they noticed her, they straightened unconsciously, as if gravity itself adjusted. From the command balcony above, Commander Aelric, acting head since Vark's suspension, watched her closely. Aelric was not like Vark, less arrogant, more calculating. He studied people as one would study volatile chemicals. He descended the steps, hands clasped behind his back. "Cadet Drake," he said evenly. "Impressive composure for someone under this much attention." "I've had practice," she said. "Apparently," he replied, half smiling. The Council's decision stirred quite the storm. Entire factions are debating whether humans should even be allowed in the Concord academies. "Let them debate," she said. "We're used to being underestimated." He stopped a few feet from her. "You've forced the galaxy to look at humanity differently. That's no small feat. But be careful. Respect earned through fear often fades into resentment." "I didn't come here to be liked," Evelyn said. "Only to be understood." Aelric studied her face. "You may find those are the same battle fought on different fronts." He turned and left, his boots echoing against the steel walkway. Evelyn watched him go, feeling the weight of unspoken things. Later that day, she entered the tactical simulation chamber. The room was a sphere of hard light, capable of replicating battle conditions across hundreds of environments. She logged in under her assigned ID, Drake 07 Human Division. The voice of the AI system filled the chamber. Scenario: defensive line, outer rim ambush. Objective: maintain position for 10 minutes against superior force. "Load parameters," she said. "Parameters loaded. Begin." Instantly, the world around her shifted. She stood knee-deep in ash, the sky a dull orange haze. Alien artillery boomed from invisible hills. The smell of ozone burned her lungs. She crouched behind fractured cover, scanning the horizon. 3 simulated squad mates appeared beside her, avatars of cadets from other species. They hesitated when they recognized her call sign. One whispered, "She's the human." "Focus," Evelyn said, eyes forward. "Target signatures incoming, vector northwest." They followed without question. Under her direction, their defense tightened. She adjusted her neural interface to track terrain fluctuations, anticipating artillery fall patterns. The simulation wasn't just about strength. It measured command under chaos. Within minutes, their line stabilized. The AI voice reported, "Time to breach, 8 minutes remaining." One cadet shouted, "They're flanking!" "Shift left, suppress with pulse fire," Evelyn ordered. "Keep your heads down. Trust my signal." When the blast wave hit, her timing saved them. The explosion shredded their previous position but missed their adjusted coordinates. At the end of the 10th minute, the simulation froze. The world dissolved into white light. "Exercise complete," the AI announced. Result: highest recorded tactical efficiency of the month. When she removed the headset, a small crowd had gathered outside the simulation glass. Some clapped quietly. Others just stared. From the back, a familiar voice cut through the hum. "Still showing off, I see." Evelyn turned. General Vark stood there, out of uniform but unmistakable. His eyes held something she hadn't seen before. Humility mixed with curiosity. "General," she greeted formally. He stepped closer, stopping just beyond the door's threshold. "They reinstated me," he said. "Not as instructor, observer. I asked for the post," her brow furrowed. "Why?" "Because," he said, "I want to understand the kind of strength that doesn't need to win to be dominant." She tilted her head. "Most people just call that patience." He gave a humorless smile. "You changed more than you know, cadet. The council is divided. Some want you promoted early as a symbol. Others want you reassigned quietly, out of sight, off the record. What do you want?" "I want to see if humanity's restraint is discipline or pride in disguise." "Maybe both," she said. He nodded slowly. "Then prove it." "There's a new assignment, Interspecies Joint Command. You'll lead half the unit. I'll lead the other." Her eyes narrowed. "Trial or trap?" "Both," he said simply. 2 days later, the joint exercise began. The mission: simulate a crisis on a neutral colony under alien insurgent attack. The objective: cooperation between human and non-human squads. From the start, tension crackled. The alien cadets avoided following her orders directly, waiting for Vark's confirmation. He didn't intervene. He watched. When the first assault hit, confusion broke the line. Commands overlapped, and the formation collapsed into chaos. Evelyn moved through the noise like a blade through fog. "Left flank, hold fire until my mark. Right flank, displace, 2 meters south. Vark, feed me their vector through your link." Vark didn't hesitate. "Transmitting." The moment the data synced, Evelyn adjusted coordinates and triggered the counterattack. The simulated enemy fell in seconds. Silence followed, the heavy kind that lingers after disbelief. Vark walked over, wiping simulation dust from his arms. "You took command of my team." "They needed one mind, not 2 chains," she said. He studied her expression and gave a short nod. "You led like someone who's already forgotten what sides mean." "Maybe that's the point," she said. The simulation ended. The council observed the footage in real time. When they called them in for review, both stood side by side. Counselor Ress appeared again on the holo screen. "Your collaboration exceeded expectation. Efficiency rate, 98%. Recommendation: establish a permanent human-led advisory unit within the conquered academy." Evelyn didn't react, but Vark turned toward her. "Congratulations. You just made history." She looked at him. "No, humanity did." That night, she sat alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely, each one a promise and a warning. She rested her head against the glass. The hum of the orbiting station faint beneath her. Footsteps echoed behind her again. Vark's, measured and quiet. Do you ever stop thinking? He asked. Not if I can help it. He leaned against the rail beside her. When I first saw you, I thought you were dangerous because you were defiant. Now I see you're dangerous because you believe in something I don't. And what's that? That strength and empathy can coexist, he said softly. She smiled faintly. They have to. Otherwise, we're just efficient monsters. He gave a low chuckle. Spoken like a true Deathworld philosopher. They watched the horizon together. Evelyn finally spoke. You know, the Conquered will test us again. Humanity's acceptance wasn't the end. It's the beginning of the next fight. I know, he said. But this time, they'll think twice before ordering a Deathworlder to kneel. The stars flared brighter as the planet rotated beneath them. Evelyn whispered, Respect isn't given, General. He nodded. No, it's remembered. The quiet between them wasn't empty anymore. It was acknowledgement, an unspoken treaty between predator and teacher, between fear and respect. Far below, the Academy lights formed the shape of the Concord emblem, its colors newly altered. Among the stars on its crest, a small blue sphere had been added, Earth. The galaxy would remember.